I was in the Navy for 20 years. At the time I retired, I was E6, First Class Petty Officer. It was terrorists blowing up buildings in New York and DC that got me thinking. I was a truck driver at the time. I was driving 48 states long haul, and I was not completely satisfied with the job, and had a wife and a young son at the time, and just looking for other things. And then when 9/11 happened, I really started to feel like maybe there was something bigger that I could do. And my father was a career Navy, and I always admired that, but I never thought of myself as a one that would join the military. But 9/11 kind of changed that and got me to think of things that I hadn't thought of before. I went to boot camp in March of 2002, and I was in the Navy for 20 years, and finally my official retirement date was last part of September 2022. So when 9/11 actually went down, I was age 30, a lot older than most recruits, but still within limits. In fact, after 9/11, I think some of the recruiting, they opened up some things that had been previously closed, and I think they relaxed some of the age limits. The Navy especially, they were flexible with the age. I think at the time you had to have some waivers to be as old as I was, but they were taking people as old as 32 with waivers, and I was age 30 when I went to boot camp. I was probably the oldest one in my boot camp division. I think a lot of the other recruits, not all of them, but I had some where they kind of deferred to me for, everyday questions. I didn't know any more than they did. I was, still trying to figure things out like everybody else, but maybe a little bit of age wisdom. Even though boot camp is a really difficult situation, they try to make it mentally difficult for a little while, just to see what you're made of. And it was hard, but I think being older and having gone through some other things and having a family to support at the time, I was pretty confident. I am third generation Navy. My grandfather, my dad's father, was on a ship, the USS St. Louis, and that ship actually, it was a cruiser, and it happened to pull into Pearl Harbor 2 days before the bombing, and they were actually there for the bombing, and they were the first ship larger than a destroyer to make it out of the harbor during the attack. So he was a Pearl Harbor survivor. He was president of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association Los Angeles chapter. My father joined the Navy not too long after high school, and he was in for a career. He did 27 years. He was in Vietnam actually when I was born, and he has a telegram that he received while he was in Vietnam telling him that he had a new son when I was born. He was during my teenage years, he was an officer, and had a lot of good experience touring the ships, and they have dependents cruises where the ship will go out for a day and they'll take the dependents out on a little ride and they'll demonstrate some of the systems, and I remember that being a lot of fun. So I had good memories of my dad being in the Navy while I was young, and I always thought it was pretty cool, but never thought of it for myself until, of course, I did. After boot camp, which was in Great Lakes, Illinois, just north of Chicago, my first duty station was Naval Air Station New Orleans. I was in New Orleans working on P-3 aircraft. My first job in the Navy was aviation electrician's mate. We did compass calibration, lighting repairs, and other electrical components, and since that was a patrol squadron, the aircraft was P-3s. So I learned the basics of aviation maintenance, and I was there for 4 years. Towards the end of my tour in New Orleans, we had an evacuation for a big hurricane, and I ended up leaving New Orleans. Our orders were to leave the city and get away from where the hurricane was coming, and so I took my family to Texas. During the hurricane evacuation, I got notice that my request to change jobs in the Navy was approved, and I went from being a aviation electrician's mate to an air traffic controller. They sent me to a school in Pensacola. It was called ACA 1 school, which is air traffic control. And while I was there, I received orders to report to Naval Air Station Meridian, Mississippi. Took the family to Mississippi, was there for 4 years. I was actually given the job of Tower Chief at Joe Williams Field, which is just outside of Meridian. So 4 years in Meridian, and then I was assigned to Naval Air Station Fallon, Nevada, that's where the Top Gun training is, out in the northern Nevada desert. And I got qualified there at the tower. And towards the end of my tour in Fallon, I ended up changing rates again, changing jobs in the Navy, and I was converted to operations specialist. And for the first time in my career, after being in 12 years, I was sent to a ship. I was assigned to USS Ashland, which was stationed in Sasebo, Japan. That was the home port. So we got our passports, and I took the family to Japan, and we lived in Japan for 3 years. Ashland did a lot of patrols in the South China Sea and around Eastern Asia. Ashland is a dock landing ship. Its mission is to carry Marines to a place where they can do an assault or whatever their mission is. We take on board a Marine Expeditionary Unit, and they sail with us to wherever it is they need to go. And then my job as an operations specialist was to oversee the launch, as we'd get as close as we could to the beach where they're going to do their landing. And then we would turn around, we'd open the back door of the ship, and whatever craft the Marine brought with them, whether it was hovercraft or it was AAVs, they would launch out, and then they would go to the beach, and then we would sail around in circles for a few days until they were ready to come back. We do a lot of joint exercises with the other countries. We did big exercises with Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, and got to meet some cool people that way. A lot of sailors or a lot of other foreign sailors that would come and embark on our ship for a little while, and we get to know each other pretty well. It was really fun. The navigation for those beach landings was partially, we would help with that, but it was planned out by the operations officer, and we would know very, very strictly what coordinates we would need to be at. And the ships all, they're on GPS signals, and we can get very precisely where we want to be. And there's actually these lanes drawn out in the water where the Marines know exactly where they're going to go and where the ship is and how many miles and feet it is from the shore. And they go right up there, and then we kind of go back out to the ocean and wait until their exercise is over. One of the things that I did that I enjoyed the most was I was a member of a team on the Ashland called the VBSS team, Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure. And our job was to train to board hostile vessels, whether they were cargo ships or any type of vessel that we thought might be carrying contraband or anything in violation of international law. We were trained to board those ships and forcibly search them. And the training that team got was super valuable. It was fun, and it was made you nervous sometimes, made you a little scared. But it was a great experience being on that team, being able to to do those exercises. Some of the exercises we did in VBSS team were with foreign militaries. In fact, we had a Filipino VBSS team that went with us on a training boarding, and we went all over the ship we searched the cargo compartments. We got the crew into one place so we could, check all the documents, and everybody was in on the training, and so it was a fun exercise. Later, I was on a carrier, USS John C. Stennis. My job on the aircraft carrier I was the air defense weapon coordinator, and what that does is I had a team of people, about 5 or 6 sailors, that would report to me as they were monitoring radar scopes. And our job was to evaluate everything in the air around the ship to ensure that, whether it was hostile or neutral or friendly, anything within our radar range, which is about 250 miles, we can detect things in the air. And our job was to evaluate those air contacts and pass on the information to the TAO, the Tactical Operations Officer. And we did a round the world tour and went to see some really cool ports. The port visits, even though they were kind of few and far between, they weren't as frequent as most of us on the ship would have liked, but when we did go to port, it was really great experience. My favorite is a place called Pattaya Beach, or maybe they pronounce it Pattaya Beach. That's in Thailand. And the reason I like Thailand so much is because the money goes so far. Everything is so inexpensive by American standards, and there was a lot to do. The shopping, the street vendors, so much to see, and tours to take, and some of the Buddhist temples that were there for touring. It's just amazing. The pictures don't even do them justice. It's really cool to see. Thailand would be my favorite. And I was also really impressed with Dubai. The infrastructure was amazing. There were these huge malls, bigger than any mall I've ever seen in the United States. And the amenities, the facilities, those buildings, you've seen those crazy tall buildings, and they're really amazing, and there's a lot of them. I do hope to sometime take my family to see some of these places. Probably my 2 favorites would be Thailand and Dubai. I'd love to go back. I do remember that even at Christmas time, when our ship went to Dubai, it was extremely hot, and they said that's the only time that it's really bearable. Rest of the year, it's probably worse than Southern Arizona, from what I've heard. But I do want to take the family back to see some of these places in Asia and the Middle East. They were really cool. Being on sea duty is really hard on the family. It really is. When the ship goes out and you know it's going to be out for a while, it's me personally, it was kind of a depressing time. And I had buddies on the ship, and we kind of supported each other, and we were able to keep in contact really well. Not like in my dad's day, where he had to wait on mail, and the helicopter had to take the mail to the ship wherever the ship was. We were able to keep in contact on a daily basis, and that made it a lot easier. I got to, if not write to the kids, real time online, sometimes we could talk on the phone, and that did make it a lot easier. And it was manageable, but a ship deployment is a tough time. It was definitely hard on me. It was eye-opening just how hard it was as a junior first starting out. And anybody who's going into the military has to be ready to deal with things that don't seem to make sense, because that's kind of how the game goes. A lot of things that the government does, and especially in the military, they defy common sense. But it works out. They take good care of you, and they make sure your needs are met, and they make sure your family's taken care of. Even from the very beginning, as a junior sailor, my command was always concerned about how my family was doing and made sure that I was able to take care of things. So if there were any surprises, maybe it was just wading through the usual stuff that a junior has to go through before they're able to get some seniority. But there were good days, there were bad days. Overall, it was a good experience. Like I said, they took good care of our family for 2 decades, and great experience. Got to see a lot of things, do a lot of things, learn a lot of things. I have a son who's early 20s, and he's actually making plans to join the Navy. He's got a degree that he's almost finished with, and his plan is to go to officer candidate school and go in as an officer. So we're excited, very supportive about that. Being a veteran now, it's sort of it's an interesting identity that I've really come to like. When I get a chance, I wear my command ball caps, around different places. It says the ship I was on or whatever. And I met a guy just a couple weeks ago on the street. He had a hat on showing that he was a Navy veteran, and we got to talking and we told some stories, and it was great to connect with somebody. And my career was really good, and I'm really glad I did it. It was hard, had a lot of hard times, but and it is nice to have people recognize that and to say thank you. So it does make me feel good. I do appreciate it.